The warning came on a cold December morning when most of Earth still slept under winter skies. Commander Lucas Grant was drinking coffee in his quarters aboard the Horizon's Edge when the alert sounded through every communication device on the planet. An alien fleet had entered the solar system. They were not explorers. They were not peaceful visitors. They came with weapons ready and demands already prepared. Lucas set down his cup and walked quickly to the command center. His crew was already there, faces tight with worry. Dr. Patricia Moore stood near the communication array, her fingers moving rapidly across holographic displays as she worked to decode the alien transmissions. Captain Henry Cole stood with his arms crossed, jaw clenched, watching the tactical display that showed 47 ships arranged in clear attack formation at the edge of their solar system. The message came through in multiple languages. Patricia had cracked their communication protocols within 20 minutes, which told Lucas something important about their visitors. They had done this before, many times. The message was simple and brutal: surrender immediately, submit to the Verath Dominion. Resistance would mean destruction. They had 48 hours to comply. Lucas looked at the faces around him. Fear was natural. These ships carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust, but fear was not what he saw in his crew. Instead, he saw determination. They had trained for this moment, though none of them had truly believed it would come. Ambassador Claire Santos arrived within the hour, her silver hair perfectly arranged despite the early morning chaos. She carried a leather folder that held the document humanity had prepared for this exact scenario. Lucas had read it a dozen times, but it still seemed impossible that they would actually use it. "They expect us to fight or surrender," Claire said, her voice calm and steady. "We'll do neither." Henry Cole spoke up, his voice rough with frustration. "Ambassador, with respect, those ships can destroy us. We should at least show them we have defenses, make them think twice about attacking." Claire shook her head. "Captain Cole, we have spent 20 years building a unified Earth. We ended wars. We solved hunger. We chose cooperation over competition. If we respond to their threats with our own threats, we become exactly what they are. We lose before the first shot is fired." Patricia looked up from her console. "I have analyzed their language patterns and cultural markers in their transmissions. The Verath are a conquest species. They have subjugated 43 different civilizations. Every aspect of their communication assumes hierarchy through force. They literally do not have words for mutual cooperation between equals." Lucas absorbed this information. "Then we teach them new words." The next 12 hours were spent preparing humanity's response. While military forces around Earth went to defensive positions, the real work happened in communication centers and cultural institutes. Artists, musicians, scientists, and philosophers contributed to what would become humanity's first message to a hostile alien species. They did not send military readiness reports. They did not send surrender terms. They sent something the Verath had never encountered. They sent an invitation. The transmission included music from every human culture. Bach and the Beatles, traditional drums from Africa and flutes from the Andes, mathematical proofs and scientific discoveries, images of Earth cities, its forests, its oceans, poetry in 100 languages, medical advances, agricultural techniques, and at the center of it all, Claire Santos delivered the unilateral decree of peace. "People of the Verath Dominion," she said, speaking directly to the camera with steady eyes. "We know you come as conquerors. We know you expect us to fight or bow. We will do neither. Instead, we offer you something your empire has never experienced. We offer you peace. Not the peace of surrender, not the peace of the defeated. We offer you genuine partnership. We will not attack you. We will not submit to you. We invite you to join us in building something better than domination. This is not weakness. This is choice. We hope you will make the same choice." The transmission ended with the coordinates for a meeting location and an invitation for their leaders to come aboard the Horizon's Edge, unarmed, to talk. The response from the Verath came 6 hours later. Their supreme commander, Thalen Kor, accepted the meeting, but his message made his intentions clear. He viewed this as humanity's attempt to buy time. He would come to hear their surrender terms in person. Lucas stood in the docking bay of the Horizon's Edge, waiting for the Verath shuttle to arrive. Henry Cole stood beside him, wearing a sidearm despite orders to remain unarmed. Lucas had allowed it. He understood the captain's need to feel prepared, even if that preparation was largely symbolic. "Sir, this is insane," Henry said quietly. "We are letting hostile aliens onto our ship. If they wanted to, they could kill everyone here." "They could kill everyone on Earth if they wanted to," Lucas replied. "This changes nothing except that we get to look them in the eye when we make our offer." Patricia joined them, carrying data tablets loaded with linguistic and cultural information. She looked nervous but excited. "I have never been so scared and so fascinated at the same time," she admitted. "We are about to meet a species whose entire civilization is built on concepts we spent centuries trying to move beyond." The shuttle arrived with a blast of cold air and the hiss of pressurization. The door opened, and the Varath emerged. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with bodies that suggested both strength and efficiency. Their skin had a gray-blue tone, and their eyes were large and dark, positioned slightly forward on their faces, predators' eyes. They wore armor that gleamed under the bay lights, though Lucas noted they had left their weapons on the shuttle. A small courtesy, or perhaps simple confidence that they did not need weapons to kill humans. Thalen Kor stepped forward first. His armor was more elaborate than the others, marked with symbols that Patricia's research indicated military achievements. 43 marks, one for each conquered world. He looked at Lucas with an expression that might have been curiosity or contempt. It was hard to tell. "I am Supreme Commander Thalen Kor of the Varath Dominion," he said. His voice was deep and resonant, translated in real time by the communication devices both sides wore. "You are the leader of this vessel." "Commander Lucas Grant," Lucas replied, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Welcome aboard the Horizon's Edge." Thalen Kor looked at the extended hand for a long moment before reaching out to grasp it briefly. His grip was strong but not crushing, a measured response. "Your transmission was unusual," he said. "In all our encounters with other species, none have responded as you did. Most prepare for battle, some attempt to flee. A few surrender immediately. But none have invited us to talk." "Then perhaps it is time something changed," Claire Santos said, stepping forward. "Supreme Commander, I am Ambassador Claire Santos. I speak for Earth's Global Consensus Authority. Would you and your officers join us in the conference room? We have much to discuss." The conference room was deliberately designed to be non-threatening. Circular table, comfortable chairs, windows showing the stars beyond. No tactical displays, no weapons, just space for conversation. Thalen Kor sat carefully, his officers arranging themselves behind him. One of them, a younger Varath with fewer rank markings, kept looking around the room with obvious interest. Patricia noticed and made a mental note. Lucas began simply. "Supreme Commander, we received your demands. We will not surrender, but we will also not fight. Instead, we propose an alternative." "There is no alternative," Thalen Kor said flatly. "The Varath Dominion requires your submission. You will provide resources, technology, and regular tribute. In exchange, we will protect you from other threats and allow you to maintain local governance under our oversight. These terms are standard. They are not negotiable." Claire leaned forward. "What if we offered you something better than tribute? What if we offered you genuine cooperation, our scientific knowledge freely shared, our cultural works, our friendship, not because you demand it, but because we choose to give it?" Thalen Kor's expression darkened. "You mock us. Friendship is meaningless. Power is what matters. You are weak. You have no visible defenses, no military fleet. You send one unarmed ship to meet an invasion force. This is either foolishness or deception." Henry Cole spoke up, unable to stay silent. "We are not weak, Commander. We are choosing peace. There is a difference." "There is no difference," Thalen Kor replied. "If you had power, you would use it. Since you do not use it, you do not have it." "This is simple logic." Patricia saw her opportunity. "Supreme Commander, may I ask you a question about Varath history? How long has your dominion existed?" Thalen Kor looked at her with surprise. 3,000 of your years. We have conquered and held 43 worlds. We are the dominant force in this region of space. And in those 3,000 years, have you known peace?" The question hung in the air. Thalen Kor's expression shifted, became harder. "We maintain order through strength. That is peace." "Is it?" Patricia asked gently. You are constantly expanding, constantly fighting, constantly enforcing your rule through threat of violence. That is not peace, that is just endless war with brief pauses. One of the younger Verath officers made a sound quickly suppressed. Thalen Kor glanced back sharply and the officer lowered their eyes, but Patricia had noticed. There was doubt among them. Not all the Verath were certain of their path. Lucas decided to take a risk. Supreme Commander, I want to show you something. Will you walk with me to the observation deck? Thalen Kor considered this, then nodded. They rose together and Lucas led him through the corridors of the horizon's edge. Patricia and the young Verath officer fell into step behind them. Henry Cole followed, hand never far from his sidearm. The observation deck offered a clear view of Earth, blue and green and white, hanging in the darkness of space like a jewel. That is our world, Lucas said. 500 years ago it was divided into hundreds of nations. We fought constantly. Wars over land, resources, beliefs, pride. Millions died. We developed weapons capable of destroying all life on the planet. We came very close to using them. Thalen Kor looked at the planet with interest. But you did not destroy yourselves. You unified. How? Not easily, Lucas admitted. Not quickly. It took centuries. It took countless failures. It took the pain of watching what our violence cost us. But eventually, enough of us decided that there had to be a better way. We chose cooperation. We chose to see each other as partners rather than enemies. We chose peace. You chose weakness, Thalen Kor said, but there was less certainty in his voice now. Did we? Lucas gestured to the ship around them. We developed faster than light travel, quantum communication across vast distances. We solved hunger and disease. We created abundance for billions. We did all of this after we stopped fighting each other. War held us back. Peace freed us to achieve things we never could have managed while killing each other. Patricia moved closer to the young Verath officer. What is your name? She asked quietly. The officer hesitated, glanced at Thalen Kor's back, then answered softly. I am Selene Var, Junior Tactical Officer. Selene Var, can I ask you something? Have you ever wondered if there might be another way? Selene Var's large eyes widened. I do not understand your question. The conquests, the dominion, the endless expansion. Does it ever feel like you are running but never arriving, fighting but never finding safety? Selene Var was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. We are taught not to ask such questions. To question the dominion is to be weak. Weakness is not tolerated. On Earth, we learned that the opposite is true, Patricia said. Asking questions is not weakness. It is the beginning of wisdom. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the Horizon's Edge Command Center. Lucas received the message on his communication device and his expression tightened. Supreme Commander, I need to inform you of something. Our defensive systems have detected that 3 of your ships are charging weapons and preparing to fire on one of our orbital stations. Thalen Kor turned sharply. I gave no such order. I believe you, Lucas said, but some of your commanders apparently believe your meeting here is a sign of weakness. They are taking action independently. Henry Cole was already moving toward the door. Sir, we need to respond. That station has 80 people on it. Lucas held up a hand. We will respond, but not the way they expect. He tapped his communication device. Command, activate Defense Protocol 7. Disable the attacking vessels but do not harm their crews. Thalen Kor's expression became dangerous. You said you had no defenses. You lied. We said we would not attack you, Claire Santos corrected. She had followed them to the observation deck. We never said we could not defend ourselves. There is a difference, Supreme Commander. On the observation deck's display screens, they watched as the 3 Verath ships fired on the orbital station. Before their weapons could strike, pulses of electromagnetic energy surrounded each ship. Their systems went dark. Their weapons powered down. The ships drifted, disabled but intact. What did you do? Thalen Kor demanded. We used electromagnetic pulse technology to disable their systems, Lucas explained. Their crews are unharmed. Their ships are intact. In approximately 1 hour, their systems will reboot and they will regain control, but they are no longer a threat. You could have destroyed them, Thalen Kor said slowly. Understanding was dawning in his eyes. Yes, Lucas said simply. We could have. We chose not to. The orbital station, instead of retaliating or celebrating its survival, sent a transmission to the disabled Verath ships, medical supplies, water purification technology, agricultural data. The message was simple. We hope these gifts help your colony worlds. We detected resource shortages in your planetary reports. We offer these freely. Selene Var made a sound that might have been a gasp. She looked at Patricia with confusion and something that might have been awe. You had the power to destroy them, but you sent gifts instead. Yes, Patricia said, because this is not about power over others. It is about choosing what kind of people we want to be. Thalen Kor was silent for a long time. His officers had joined them on the observation deck now, and they too watched the screens in stunned silence. Finally, the Supreme Commander spoke, and his voice was different now, less certain, more thoughtful. I have conquered 43 worlds, he said. I have fought hundreds of battles. I have negotiated surrenders and crushed rebellions, but I have never encountered anything like this. He looked at Lucas directly. You are either the wisest species I have ever met or the most foolish. I have not decided which. Perhaps we are both, Lucas suggested. Wise enough to know that violence leads nowhere, foolish enough to keep believing in peace even when others do not. Claire stepped forward. Supreme Commander, we are not asking you to surrender. We are not demanding anything from you. We are offering you a choice. You can continue as you have, conquering and controlling, always fighting, never secure. Or you can try something new, partnership, cooperation, genuine peace. The choice is yours. My government will never accept this, Thalen Kor said. The Dominion is built on strength through conquest. To abandon that would be to abandon everything we are. Everything you were, Patricia corrected gently. Civilizations can change. People can grow. We did, why can you not? Thalen Kor looked at her for a long moment, then at his officers. Selene Var met his gaze and did not look away. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication. I will need to consult with my senior commanders, Thalen Kor said finally. This is not a decision I can make alone. Of course, Lucas agreed. We do not expect instant answers. This is not a demand with a deadline. This is an open invitation. Take whatever time you need. The Verath delegation returned to their shuttle. Lucas and his crew watched them go, and only when the shuttle had departed did Henry Cole finally relax his hand from his sidearm. That went better than I expected, Henry admitted. But it is not over. We showed them we can defend ourselves, but we also showed them that we will not attack. Some of them will see that as an opportunity. Some of them will, Lucas agreed. But some of them will see it as something else. A chance to be more than conquerors. That is all we can offer. Over the next 24 hours, the situation grew more complex. The Verath fleet split into factions. Some commanders agreed with Thalen Kor that humanity's offer deserved consideration. Others saw it as weakness to be exploited. And some simply did not know what to make of a species that defied every expectation they had. Patricia spent most of that time in communication with Selene Var. The young Verath officer had requested permission to learn more about human history, and Patricia was eager to teach. They spoke for hours about Earth's past, about the wars and genocides, about the slow, painful progress toward peace, about the setbacks and failures and the determination to keep trying anyway. Your species has killed billions of your own kind, Selene Var said at one point, her voice filled with confusion. How can you speak of peace when your history is so violent? Because we learned from that violence, Patricia explained. We saw where it led us. We decided to choose differently. Yes, we were violent. Yes, we were cruel, but we were also capable of change. That is the point, Selene Var. Your past does not have to be your future. The Dominion teaches that our nature is to conquer. That strength through dominance is the only true security. And what do you think? Patricia asked. Selene Var was quiet for a long time. I think I am tired of fighting. I think even when we win, we do not feel safe. There is always another world to conquer, another potential threat to crush. It never ends. It could end, Patricia said gently, if you chose to end it. While Patricia worked on hearts and minds, Lucas and Claire prepared for the more practical aspects of their situation. General Kyle Hammond joined them via quantum communication from Earth's Defense Headquarters. His weathered face appeared on the holographic display, looking as calm as if they were discussing routine military exercises rather than potential planetary invasion. Commander Grant, Ambassador Santos, I trust you are both well. As well as can be expected, General, Lucas replied. What is the situation on Earth? Tense but stable. The people know what is happening. Most support the peace initiative. Some think we should demonstrate more force. I have defensive positions ready in case negotiations fail, but I am following the decree. No aggressive action unless Earth itself is directly attacked. Claire nodded approvingly. Thank you, General. I know this is difficult for military minds. Everything in your training tells you to prepare for the worst. Ambassador, I have been a soldier for 36 years, Kyle said. I have seen enough war to know that it should always be the last option, not the first. If we can find peace without bloodshed, that is worth the risk. But if they do attack, I will not hesitate to defend our world. We are not asking you to hesitate, Lucas assured him. We are asking you to wait, to give peace a chance before we resort to violence. Kyle's expression became more serious. There is something you should know. Our intelligence indicates that the Varath Dominion's government is currently in chaos over your offer. This has never happened before. They do not have protocols for this. Some factions are calling for immediate attack, others want to explore cooperation, and some are simply paralyzed by uncertainty. Good, Claire said. Uncertainty means they are thinking. Thinking means change is possible. The 48-hour deadline passed. The Varath fleet did not attack, but neither did they accept Earth's offer. They simply waited, and in that waiting, something remarkable began to happen. Individual Varath began to make contact with humans. Officers like Selene Var were not alone in their curiosity. Some wanted to understand human culture. Others wanted to debate philosophy. A few simply wanted to hear Earth's music, which apparently was unlike anything in Varath experience. Lucas watched these small connections form with careful hope. Armies could be ordered to fight, but curiosity and genuine interest could not be commanded into existence. These small moments of contact were more powerful than any weapon. On the third day, Thalen Kor requested another meeting. This time, Lucas went to the Varath flagship. It was a calculated risk, but one that felt necessary. If Earth demanded the Varath come to them every time, it suggested fear. Going to their ship showed confidence and respect. The Varath flagship was massive, built for war, with corridors that felt more like fortifications than walkways. Thalen Kor met him in what appeared to be a command center, surrounded by tactical displays showing fleet positions and planetary systems. Commander Grant, Thalen Kor greeted him. You are brave to come here. Some of my officers still advocate for your capture or execution. And yet here I am, unharmed, Lucas replied calmly, which tells me you are not interested in either of those options. Thalen Kor's expression might have been a smile. It was hard to tell. You are perceptive. I have made a decision, though it may be the most difficult decision of my career. I am ordering a ceasefire, not a surrender, not an acceptance of your terms, but a pause. Time for both our peoples to understand each other better before we make irreversible choices. Lucas felt relief wash through him, though he kept his expression neutral. That is a wise decision, Supreme Commander. May I ask what changed your mind? Many things, Thalen Kor admitted. Your demonstration of defensive capability without aggression, your persistence in offering cooperation despite our threats, and my conversations with my own officers. Many of them, especially the younger ones, have been exposed to your culture through these past days. They ask questions I cannot answer, questions about why we must always fight, questions about what we are building toward, questions I have not allowed myself to ask. He paused, looking at the tactical displays showing his fleet. I have spent my life in service to the Dominion. I have been rewarded for conquest, celebrated for victory, but I have never felt peace. Your species offers something I do not fully understand, but I find myself wanting to understand it. Lucas chose his next words carefully. Understanding is a good place to start. You do not have to abandon everything you are, but perhaps you can add something new. Peace does not mean weakness. It means choosing when to use strength and when to show mercy. My government will not approve this ceasefire, Thalen Kor said. I will likely face charges of cowardice or treason. Then we will stand with you, Lucas said simply. If you face judgment for choosing peace, we will testify on your behalf. We will show your government what we have shown you. They can make their own choice. Thalen Kor studied him for a long moment. You would do that, defend me to my own people. If you are willing to try for peace, then you are our ally in the most important battle there is. The battle against our own violent instincts. Yes, we would defend you. The ceasefire was announced simultaneously to both the Varath fleet and Earth. The response was mixed on both sides. Many celebrated, some protested. But the fighting did not begin, and in that absence of violence, something new had space to grow. Over the following weeks, exchange programs began. Small groups of Varath came to Earth, walking through cities, seeing how humans lived without constant threat of war. Humans went to Varath ships, learning about their culture, their history, their fears and hopes. Patricia and Selene Var worked together on a joint cultural project, documenting both species' journeys from violence toward peace. Selene Var proved to have a gift for writing, and her perspective on human culture was both insightful and moving. "I've learned something from humans," Selene Var wrote in one of her reports. "Fear is not removed by causing fear in others. Security is not gained by making others insecure. True peace comes from within, from the choice to be better than our worst instincts. This is a lesson the Varath have never learned. Perhaps we can learn it now." Not everyone in the Varath Dominion was pleased with these developments. A faction of hardline commanders attempted to override Thalen Kor's ceasefire and attack Earth. Their rebellion was put down not by human intervention, but by other Varath who had come to believe in the possibility of peace. It was a turning point. The Varath were beginning to fight among themselves not over territory or resources, but over ideas, over what kind of civilization they wanted to be. Henry Cole, who had been skeptical from the beginning, found himself in an unexpected friendship with a Varath tactical officer named Kren Tao. They discovered a shared love of strategic thinking and spent hours discussing military history from both their species. One evening, sharing a drink in the Horizon's Edge mess hall, Henry made an admission. "I thought you would attack us," he said. "I thought the ambassador's peace plan was naive at best and suicidal at worst." Kren Tao made a sound that Patricia had identified as Varath laughter. "I thought the same. I expected your commander to be a fool. Instead, I found courage I did not know existed. The courage to remain peaceful when war would be easier." "It is not easier," Henry said. "Every instinct tells me to prepare for betrayal, to keep my guard up, to trust actions, not words. And yet you are here drinking with me, a member of the species that came to conquer your world. Your actions show trust, even if your words express doubt." Henry considered this and smiled ruefully. "Maybe I am learning, slowly, very slowly." 3 months after first contact, the Varath Dominion government sent official representatives to Earth, not to demand surrender, not to negotiate terms of conquest, but to explore the possibility of formal diplomatic relations. It was unprecedented in their history. The negotiations took place in Geneva, in the same building where humanity had hammered out its own global consensus decades earlier. Claire Santos led the human delegation. Thalen Kor, despite the risk to his career and possibly his life, led the Varath delegation. The talks were difficult. Centuries of ingrained beliefs did not change overnight. The Varath struggled with concepts like mutual benefit and voluntary cooperation. They kept trying to establish hierarchy, to determine who was dominant. Claire and her team had to patiently explain again and again that the whole point was that neither side dominated the other. But slowly, painfully, progress was made. The Varath agreed to halt their expansion while they explored this new approach. Earth agreed to share technology and knowledge freely, without demands for payment or tribute. Both sides committed to cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation, and regular diplomatic contact. Lucas stood in the memorial garden in Geneva, reading the inscriptions carved into stone walls. The names of conflicts, the dates of wars, the counts of the dead. Millions upon millions who died before humanity learned to choose differently. Selene Var found him there, looking at the walls with her large dark eyes. "This is why you offered us peace," she said quietly. "You know the cost of war. You have counted it." "Every name here is a lesson," Lucas said. "Every death is a reminder of what happens when we choose violence over understanding. We built this memorial not to celebrate victory, but to remember the price of fighting." We remember so we can choose better. Selenivar reached out and touched the stone wall gently, tracing the carved names with her fingers. The Varath do not have memorials like this. We have monuments to victories, celebrations of conquests. We remember what we gained, not what we lost. Perhaps that is why you keep fighting, Lucas suggested. If you only remember the victories, you forget the cost. I will remember, Selenivar said softly. When I return to my homeworld, I will tell them what I learned here. Not everyone will listen, but some will, and those some will tell others. Change does not happen all at once, but it can happen. The formal treaty was signed on a day in late March. Spring was coming to the northern hemisphere, and Earth felt alive with possibility. Representatives from both species stood together, adding their signatures or their equivalent marks to a document that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. The unilateral decree of peace had succeeded, not by conquering the Varath, not by defeating them, but by refusing to let them dictate the terms of engagement. Humanity had won not through superior firepower but through moral certainty, not by being stronger but by being better. General Kyle Hammond attended the signing ceremony in full uniform, medals from long-ago conflicts bright on his chest. After the signatures were complete, a Varath commander approached him, one who had been among those advocating for attack during the first days of contact. General Hammond, I must admit I thought your species was weak. I thought your peace was cowardice. Kyle smiled slightly. And now I think your species is terrifying. You have the power to destroy but choose not to use it. You have the weapons for war but prefer the tools of peace. That requires a strength I do not fully understand. It is easier to destroy than to build, easier to conquer than to cooperate. You choose the harder path. That is not weakness. That is a courage my species has not yet developed. You are developing it now, Kyle replied. That is what matters. Every step toward peace is a victory, even if it feels like surrender to those who only know war. The ceremony ended with a cultural exchange that had been planned by Patricia and her team. Musicians from Earth and the Varath homeworld performed together, blending sounds that had never been combined before. The music was strange and beautiful, harmonies from two species finding common ground in rhythm and melody. Lucas stood beside Claire Santos, watching the performance. Do you think this will last? He asked quietly. Peace is fragile. It requires constant work. What if they change their minds? What if new leaders come who want to return to the old ways? Claire smiled. Then we will do what we did this time. We will offer peace again and again. And as many times as it takes. Peace is not a destination, Lucas. It is a choice we make every single day. Some days will be harder than others, but the choice remains. That is exhausting, Lucas said, but he smiled as he said it. Yes, Claire agreed. It absolutely is, but it is better than the alternative. In the months that followed, the changes rippled outward. Other species in the region, watching what had happened between humanity and the Varath, began to reconsider their own approaches to diplomacy. The Varath Dominion, though still struggling with its transformation, began to dismantle some of its more oppressive policies toward conquered worlds. It was slow, it was messy, but it was progress. Selenivar became an ambassador, one of the first Varath to dedicate her career to peace rather than war. She traveled between worlds, telling the story of what happened when her fleet met Earth. Not everyone believed her. Some accused her of being corrupted by human influence, but others listened, and some of those listeners began to change their own minds. Thalen Kor faced a military tribunal for his decision to pursue ceasefire without government authorization. Lucas and Claire both testified on his behalf, appearing before Varath officials to explain what had happened. The outcome was uncertain until the end, but finally, the tribunal made its decision. Thalen Kor was not guilty of treason. He was guilty of thinking beyond his orders, of making decisions that changed history. The punishment was a commendation for exceptional service and a new assignment as the Varath Dominion's first minister of peaceful relations. Henry Cole and Kren Tao wrote a joint treatise on military strategy in peacetime. Their thesis was simple but revolutionary for the Varath. The purpose of military strength is not to conquer but to protect, not to impose will but to preserve freedom. The document became required reading in both human and Verath military academies. Patricia Moore published a book called The Language of Peace, exploring how different species conceptualize cooperation and conflict. It became a bestseller on multiple worlds and was translated into 17 different languages, including 3 Verath dialects. 1 year after first contact, Lucas Grant stood on the observation deck of the Horizon's Edge, looking at Earth below. So much had changed. So much remained uncertain. But the fighting had not begun, and every day without war was a small victory. Claire Santos joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed him one and stood beside him in comfortable silence for a moment. "The Council wants to send diplomatic missions to other species in the region," she said finally. "Show them what we showed the Verath, offer them the same choice." "That is ambitious," Lucas replied. "It is necessary," Claire corrected. "If we keep this just between Earth and the Verath, it remains an isolated incident. But if we can show that peace is possible across multiple species, across different cultures and biologies and philosophies, then it becomes a movement. It becomes change that cannot be stopped." Lucas sipped his coffee and smiled. "Then we better get started. The universe is a big place and apparently we have a lot of minds to change." "Not change," Claire said. "Open. We are not forcing anyone to think differently. We are just showing them that there are options beyond violence. What they do with that information is up to them." Far away, in the Verath home system, Selene Var stood before a classroom of young Verath students. They looked at her with curious eyes, these children who had grown up knowing only war as the natural state of existence. "Today, I am going to tell you about the humans," she said. "About the species that could have destroyed us but chose instead to teach us. About the people who showed us that strength without wisdom is just violence, and that true power lies in choosing peace when war is possible." The students listened, and in their listening, the future began to take shape. Not a future of endless conquest and domination, but a future where peace was not naive hope but determined choice, where strength was measured not by whom you could defeat but by whom you could help, where security came not from making others afraid but from building trust together.